Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulasi Devyai Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Dhira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopijana Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jayam Vishnu Pad Padamahansa Padavrajacharya Asta Satya Shishimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sekaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopnath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Gaura Premananda, Hari Hari Bolo, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to Shishi Guru and Garanga and His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sure. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're starting a new chapter today. We're starting 62, which is the meeting of Usha and Aniruddha. I'm going to read the chapter summary, and then we'll do one verse responsibly, and then I'm going to read a couple because it's mostly commentary, and then we'll dive in. So, chapter summary. This chapter recounts the meeting of Aniruddha and Usha, and also Aniruddha's battle with Banasura. Of the 100 sons of King Bali, the oldest is Banasura. He was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, who favored Bana so much that even demigods like Indra would serve him. Banasura once satisfied Shiva by playing musical instruments with his 1,000 hands while Shiva danced his Tandava Nritya. In response, Shiva offered Bana whatever benediction he chose, and Bana asked Shiva to become the guardian of his city. One day, when Bana was feeling an urge to do battle, he told Lord Shiva, "Except for you, in the whole world there is no warrior strong enough to fight me. Therefore, these 1,000 arms you've given me are merely a heavy burden. Angered by these words, Lord Shiva replied, "Your pride will be crushed in battle when you meet my equal. Indeed, your chariot flag will fall to the ground broken." Vanasura's daughter, Usha, once had an encounter with a lover in her sleep. Several nights in a row this occurred until one night she failed to see him in her dreams. She suddenly awoke, speaking aloud to him in a state of agitation, but when she noticed her maidservants around her, she felt embarrassed. Usha's companion, Chitralekha, asked her who she had been addressing, and Usha told her everything. Hearing of Usha's dream lover, Chitralekha tried to relieve her friend's distress by drawing pictures of Gandharvas and other celestial personalities, as well as various men of the Vrishni dynasty. Chitralekha asked Usha to pick out the man she had seen in her dreams, and Usha pointed to the picture of Aniruddha. Chitralekha, who had mystic powers, knew at once that the young man her friend had pointed out was Lord Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha. Then, using her mystic powers, Chitralekha flew through the sky to Dwarka, found Aniruddha, and brought him back with her to Shanitapura, Banasura's capital. There she presented him to Usha. Having attained the man of her desires, Usha began serving him very affectionately within her private quarters, which were supposed to be strictly off limits to men. After some time, the female guards of the inner palace noticed symptoms of sexual activity on Usha's person, and they went to Banasura to inform him. Greatly disturbed, Banasura rushed to his daughter's apartments with many armed guards, and to his great surprise saw Aniruddha there. As the guards attacked him, Aniruddha took up his club and succeeded in killing a few before the powerful Bana could capture him with his mystic Nagapasha ropes, filling Usha with lamentation. So a lot just now coming. So we're on text 1. Shri Raja Uvacha Vanasya Tanayam Usham Upayame Yadutamaha Tatra Yutam Habud Goram Hari Shankarayor Mahat Etat Sarvam Maha Yogin Samakyatum Tvam Arhasi. Shri Raja Uvacha Banasya Tanayam Usham Upayeme Yadutamaha Tatra Yudam Abhut Goram Hari Shankarayor Mahat Etat Sarvam Mahayogin Samakyatum Twamarasi. Shri Raja Uvacha Banasya Tanayam Usham Upayeme Yadutama Tatra Yudham Abud Goram Hari Shankarayor Mahat Etat Sarvam Mahayogin Samakyatum Twamarhasi. Shri Raja Uvacha Banasya Tanayam Usham Upayeme Yadutama Tatra Yudam Abud Goram Hari Shankarayor Mahat Etat Sarvam Mahayogin Samakyatum Twamarhasi. Bhagavacha Harayavasha. Anybody else? Okay. So translation. King Parikshit said, oops, sorry. Sorry? For word, yeah. Sorry. Shri Rajovacha. The king, Parikshit Maharaj, said, sorry. Banasya of the demon, Bana. Tanayam, the daughter. Usham, named Usha. Upayeme, married. Yadu Uttamaha, the best of the Yadus. Aniruddha, Tatra, in connection with that. Yudam, a battle. Abhut, occurred. Goram, fearsome. Harishankarayo, between Lord Hari Krishna and Lord Shankara Shiva. Mahat, great. Etat, this. Sarvam, all. Mahayogin, O great mystic. Samakyatum, to explain. Tvam, you. Arhasi, deserve. Now translation. King Parikshit said, the best of the Yadus married Banasura's daughter Usha, and as a result, a great fearsome battle occurred between Lord Hari and Lord Shankara. Please explain everything about this incident, O most powerful of mystics. So we can repeat. King Parikshit said, the best of the Yadus married Banasura's daughter Usha, and as a result, a great fearsome battle occurred between Lord Hari and Lord Shankara. Please explain everything about this incident, O most powerful of mystics. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes a very just brief commentary, which is in this chapter. Aniruddha associates with Usha, the daughter of Banasura, and is imprisoned by him after being brought to Usha by Chitralekha. So I'm going to just read 62 and 63 with no responsiveness. Shri Shuko Vacha Banaputra Shata Jeshto Balerasin Mahatmana Yena Vamana Rupaya Harayeda Himedini Tasyaurasa Sutapana Shiva Bhakti Ratasada Manyo Vandan Yo Dimamscha Sacha Sando Dridhavrata Shoniktakye Pure Ramye Sarajam Akarot Pura Tasya Shambho Prasadena Kinkarai Vate Maraha Sahasrabha Urpatyena Tandaveto Shayan Mridam. And I'm going to just read the translation. Shukadev Goswami said, Bana was the oldest of the 100 sons fathered by the great saint Bali Maharaj, who gave the whole earth in charity to Lord Hari when he appeared as Vamanadev. Banasura, born of Bali Siman, became a great devotee of Lord Shiva. His behavior was always respectable, and he was generous, intelligent, truthful, and firm in his vows. The beautiful city of Shanitapur was under his dominion. Because Lord Shiva had favored him, the very demigods waited on Banasura like menial servants. Once, when Shiva was dancing his Tandava Nritya, Bana especially satisfied the Lord by playing musical accompaniment with his 1,000 arms. Jiva Goswami shares, Bana was the oldest of 100 sons of the great devotee Bali. This implies that Bana was not a devotee, the unavoidable result of bad association with a sinful person who hated the Lord and committed offenses. The offense could not be destroyed even by worshiping Lord Shiva, the great devotee of the Lord, endowed with the wealth of the earth. Rather, through Shiva's association, he tried to compete with the Lord. With his 1,000 arms, he was able to play the instruments very skillfully. The name Rita means compassionate and happy. Because Lord Shiva was compassionate, he danced. His dancing was filled with devotion for the Supreme Lord. And then 3, Bhagavan Sarva Bhutesha Sharanyo Bhakta Vatsalaha Varena Chandayam Asa Satam Vavre Puradipam. The Lord and Master of all created beings, the compassionate refuge of his devotees, gladdened Banasura by offering him the benediction of his choice. Bana chose to have him, Lord Shiva, as the guardian of his city. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur shares that Banasura chose Shiva to be the protector of his city. And then Jiva Goswami shares, why did Shiva accept such a sinful person? It is said Shiva, by his nature, is endowed with compassion as well as wealth, power. The faults of the sinful person sometimes are destroyed by a relationship with him. When Shiva was absorbed in the Lord while dancing, his mercy arose because of Bana's music. That is explained in this verse. He asked Bana to choose a gift, Varena Chandayam Asa. He chose to have Shiva as the protector of his city. And then finally, Sanatan Goswami shares, Shiva was full of all powers, Bhagavan. He is described as the Guna avatar. He was the master of all jivas, Sarva Bhutesha. He was worthy of taking shelter because he was affectionate to devotees. Thus he fulfilled Bana's wish, Chandayam Asa, or Shiva was full of mercy, Bhagavan. Thus he was the protector of all jivas, whose nature is to suffer according to individual qualities. He was the protector of the surrendered and affectionate to the devotees. These are successfully greater causes of fulfilling Bana's desires. So, Omagana Tamayanda Shakanachana Chakshurun Militam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. What was standing out for me in these couple of verses is the mercy because of the great devotee, and for me in particular, Srila Prabhupada and my own spiritual master, and looking at the situation because in one description you're hearing that he's a great devotee of Lord Shiva and has all these qualities, and then another one he's has these demoniac qualities because of association. And yet you have Lord Shiva being merciful and looking at how he can engage him. And I was thinking about this is, what the spiritual master does is that he looks for a way to marry the devotee's qualities with service. He's always constantly looking for finding the little teeny seeds of devotion that we have and all the gifts that Krishna's given us, and then engaging it in service, and trying to find a way of getting us closer to our relationship with Krishna. And so here you see Lord Shiva, because Banasura has taken shelter of him, is engaging him in, playing with his 1,000 arms all the musical instruments, and then he can in turn utilize that in connecting his relationship and dancing for the Lord. And so I was just thinking how important it is, two things, how important association is, but then how important it is to take shelter of, these great devotees. and to have this opportunity in practicing Krishna consciousness, and the mercy that we receive from that. And I think of my own situation of, all my idiosyncrasies and, all my faults, and how perfectly my spiritual master engages me in my devotional service. And he knows those things are there, but he doesn't focus on those things. He focuses on the things that he knows that will engage me and encourage me. And certainly, sometimes will point out through humor, is the way he usually works, is usually pointing out through humor of those things that I need to work on. And, that's what was, at least for me, so encouraging about this, is knowing that, through this association, that these bad qualities and these things in the heart that we want, washed away, can be done through association. And so then I was diving into and looking at association in the Bhagavad Gita, but, also thinking about what association is, because it's not just physical presence, and taking, like having a conversation. It's something my spiritual master and gets a lot of questions about, and then shares, that association isn't just, again, like this physical presence of having a conversation with somebody who may be a non-devotee, because we hear about not taking the association of the non-devotee. But it's not that we just have to isolate ourselves and never speak to them at all. We give association. And association is intimacy. It's sharing those things confidentially. The 6 loving exchanges that we have with the devotee is very intimate. Whereas with non-devotees, we're trying to give them Krishna and we're trying to give them association, but then we don't go into maybe sharing our doubts or maybe our weaknesses within our practice of Krishna consciousness, because often their lack of understanding, they can become critical or use those things against us, and sometimes steer us away from Krishna consciousness because we've shared vulnerabilities and they use those against us. I've seen that even in my own circumstance with my family. But what I wanted to do is dive into the Bhagavad Gita and what it shares about this association. And the first image that popped into mind, it's one of my favorite, is in chapter 2 and text 22. And it's the one of the 2 birds. And there's Krishna and there's Super Soul, and they're in the tree. And one of the birds is associating, with the material world and eating the fruits. And Krishna's patiently over there waiting for that little bird to turn around to him and take that association and steer away from those material attachments. And so for me, and I think maybe because I do have an attachment to birds, maybe it was a bird in the last life, I'm not really sure, but, just this, loving relationship that, again, Krishna's there waiting to give his association and redirect us, from our misdirected life into a relationship with him. And yet, he's willing, like Lord Shiva, to engage us with those attachments of like, okay, if you have an attachment to this, let's see how we can yukta vairagya, how we can utilize this in Krishna's service, right? And then, if we go to chapter 11 and text 55, okay, it shares in the purport, Srila Prabhupada states, in this verse, Rupa Goswami clearly states, and he's referencing 1.1.11 from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that Srila Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of poor persons who are addictive to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna. That is called pure devotional service. One should think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. And so it goes on to, give the relationship that Kamsa had, his enmity towards Krishna. But again, it's thinking about how we're associating. And I was thinking about that too as I was going deeper into thinking about this of, we have personal association and giving association, personal, but association in Krishna consciousness goes much deeper. It's the association that we have with each other, how we're sharing, the association that we take from the great devotees, the advanced devotees in the movement, from our spiritual master. It's the association we have with the chanting of the Maha Mantra. Like, how are we actually associating with our chanting? Are we walking in, to that association of picking up our beads and chanting the Maha Mantra as, how am I going to develop my relationship with Krishna? How deep am I going to take my association with Krishna when I pick up those beads and associate with those beads and Krishna? Because he's there, he's dancing on the tongue, he's totally present when we're chanting. Same thing when we walk into the kitchen. As we're walking, I was thinking about this as I'm walking into the kitchen to go prep to do something for Krishna and the devotees. How is my mind set in associating with all of the things that I'm doing to prepare everything for offering to the Lord, that then in turn gets prepared to share with the devotees, and then for any service that we have, where does my thoughtfulness of associating with Krishna consciousness and taking it deeper, into a personal, because that's what we practice. We practice personalism. Krishna consciousness is the most personal and the most intimate practice of religion there is, because we get to have direct and personal association with the Lord. Same thing with, the Lord. What is my mental state going to be when I walk on the altar to do an arti or dress the deities? How personal am I going to make this? And take it deeper. And then there was this, excuse me, comment in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 5, in the purport, in which Prabhupada shares, the power of thought should be developed in association with persons who are authorities in scriptures, saintly persons, and spiritual masters, and those whose thinking is highly developed. So the power of thought, that was, what resonated with me as I was diving in, and made me think about the power of my thought as I go in to take, these different services up, how powerful, and so then what is it, how do our thoughts develop? Our thoughts develop according to our association. If we hang out with people that are doing drugs and, different illegal activities and drinking, we become, a drunkard. If we hang out, with meat eaters, then we become meat eaters. Because most people, when I worked in the material world for about 44 years, and most of the time, most of what they talked about was what movie they went to see and where they went to eat. And that was it. That was about the conversation. There wasn't a lot, much more depth to the conversation. So again, our association with the scriptures, our association with our japa, our association with Srila Prabhupada and his family, all these things, whatever it is we associate is what's developing our Krishna consciousness and our thoughts and how we're doing in things. So the power of thought is very significant relative to association. And then there's another one that, because there's so much I love the Bhagavad Gita. one of my favorite things to do is to go to the back, and something I started recently is I picked a topic, surrender, and then I'm starting to work through each of the verses and each of the entries under surrender, and going back and reading that, and then, trying to do a whole study of surrender through the Bhagavad Gita, because I was thinking about association, and you go back there, and there's just so many references to it. You can learn so much, about how to have a relationship, not only with Krishna, but with yourself and your relationship towards how you feel about yourself, and, the relationship to the devotees, because I was just thinking, my spiritual master, His Holiness Spirit Krishna Goswami, was given a class about that, and he was talking about, that we really owe it to ourselves to love and respect ourselves, because Krishna loves and respects us. We have to have that love for ourselves, because if we don't, Krishna consciousness is going to be very difficult, but of course balancing it with, not thinking that we're these great personalities. So, and then in chapter 7, text 30, this 7th chapter particularly explains how one can become a fully Krishna-conscious person. The beginning of Krishna consciousness is association of persons who are Krishna-conscious. Such association is spiritual and puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. And by His grace, one can understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, again, here's this association, and that's the beginning of it, sadhu sangha, where we have this association. It leaves all these wonderful impressions, on our heart. And, and that's the beginning, because that plants that seed of devotion, and then it's up to us not to starve that seed, but to water that seed and grow that association. And the significance of that, doing that in our family of ISKCON and in our family of Krishna consciousness, is to have this amazing support system that waters that seed and, creates a boundary, or a fence, a protective fence around that seed, so that it can be watered and protected at the same time, because as you know, anything that newly sprouts is very vulnerable, and at least how I feel, for myself, is that I'm probably going to be really vulnerable until, I get to be fully Krishna conscious. So I need that protection, I need that association, I need that feedback. I need to be able to reveal my mind about my doubts in a safe place, where they're not misunderstood or misused. And again, it's that association and how we take that. And I've been sharing the last couple of times, an instance of I'm having a challenge with my father, hasn't spoken to me for 3 months. And basically, because my sister, he and my stepmother had been talking very negatively about me, and all these years that I thought, literally, I'd have conversations with my dad for hours about Krishna consciousness, and he would ask question after question after question, and it now appears that most of what he was doing was going in to find more information to use against me, and it's been really heartbreaking. But one of the things that I did was I tried to share as much as I could, but I also didn't take association with him. And even though he's my father, and I feel sad at his loss, and sometimes I feel sad at my loss, of course, of not really having that relationship, it taught me, and has taught me over the years, because he's challenged me over the years too, in my Krishna consciousness, and in thinking that he was, and this is how this works, it's a very subtle thing, in thinking how he could find a loophole to try to pull me back, because he basically thinks, I'm in a cult, I guess, even after 20-some years. And even though he told his friends that I don't know really what she's doing, but she's the happiest she's ever been in her life, can't take that into his heart and hold it and not make judgments about me, instead cuts me off, because I gave a table, which it's not about the table, but I gave a table to my niece, and I kept it in the family versus giving it to Krishna, right? So again, this association is so valuable, and we're so fortunate to have each other, because we all have these amazing gifts. We all have these amazing realizations, that encourage us, because we do. We have these amazing, realizations, and then when we share, the other person gets to experience and have that realization as well. Because I've shared this many times, that realizations come from Krishna. They aren't owned by us. They're given to us by Krishna. And then when we share them, it's, that continued thing. Oh, now it's, I can see the face, but anyway, Bhakti Tirtha Swami was talking about how, and it reminds me of this, of sharing and association, but how we get these realizations, but, it's like collecting rocks, and, you can't just carry them all. It's better that you share them, right? And so once you receive one, it's better to share those. And I thought that was really, a wonderful example of how, it's not like, and talking about Krishna consciousness, too. Like, we have this Krishna consciousness that we practice, and that's, the beauty is that you get to keep the realization even when you give it to somebody else. You get to keep your Krishna consciousness even though you share it with somebody else. You don't lose anything in sharing Krishna consciousness. So then going back here, to Banasura, and thinking about how careful we have to be about our association, because it can turn us against Krishna. Even family, we can love them and we can respect them, but we have to draw that boundary of when it's going to be favorable for Krishna consciousness or unfavorable, right? And so, just thinking again about how important that is, and how important it is, to take the instructions of the spiritual master, who for me at least is my key association for advancing in Krishna consciousness. So I think at this point they may have just a few more minutes if anybody has any questions or thoughts, your own personal experiences.
Hey. Thank you for sharing your experience with your family. Early on, like right when I was coming in, my family was in a similar place of like kind of trying to go behind enemy lines within my own consciousness to see like, oh, how can we convince him that there's something off with seeking the spiritual path, or going into Krishna consciousness. It was very similar. Like they were trying to play like, oh yeah, we're friends, we got you.
Right.
And they turned.
Yeah.
Though now I've experienced more and more that when I associate with them purely in Krishna consciousness, whether I'm engaging them in service, whether they know it or not, right, or I'm reading with them, whether they really understand it or not, it's been purifying for our relationship, and it's been purifying these deeper, harder to see pains and traumas. And so, how do we balance that, and how have you balanced it over the years of taking proper association with our families and also setting healthy boundaries?
I think it's one of those things that you deal with, it's like there's so many variables in relationships with so many different individuals, and I think you just have to take it as you go, because, I think, the deeper we go into our Krishna consciousness, the more prepared we'll be to respond, and the more, because we'll be locked in, and more unwavering. At the same time, there has to be some flexibility for finding, room to allow them to express themselves, because you can't just shut them down and you can't just let them, just completely overrun the situation. So I think you have to take it, as you go, and as you progress, you'll have, more and more stability and strength to deal with those things. And the more Krishna conscious you become, you'll also find different avenues for being able to pull them in. And then sometimes you just have to let Krishna do it, because, how small are we and how big is he? So all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the association of the devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Radha Golokananda Ki Jai.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Anandani Yasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Lasyan Dipan Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Tale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namao Radhaya Krishna Prasaya Utale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Vaskachadi Satarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Vaskachadi Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Golokananda Jaya Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe Jaya Jaya Giri Govardhan 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada
Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Bhakti Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavita Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Jai. Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Jai Radha Krishna Gopagopana Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Girigoran Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mai Purnavadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagat Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki. Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki. Harinam Sankirtan Ki. Brihat Madanga Ki. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi, Guru and Garanga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And just a quick announcement that we'll be having Harinam Sankirtan on Saturday in Hillsborough at Weaver Street Market, 11:30 in the morning. So please come. It may be a little rainy, but we have a way to get around that over there because there's an overhang we can stand under. So 11:30 on Saturday morning at Weaver Street Market. Haribo. Chaito darpanam marjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudan Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midvishami Hajjanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadaram Nadaram Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamae Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoita Ki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vabada Pankaja Stija Duli Sajashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galadashu Daraya Varanam Gad Gadurudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Jakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishyavapadamritam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatata Vidata Patomat Pranata Susaiva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental